The college shooting in Oregon has restarted the national conversation about violence. And we have asked several people to give us their views. It's part of a new series that we're starting here tonight called Voices Against Violence.
I'm Calvin Butts, pastor of the Abyssinian Baptist Church in the city of New York. Gun violence in America is an epidemic that is exploding all over our nation, in our churches, on our college campuses, in our movie theaters. This is a threat to our national security. There must be severe legislation that addresses the manufacturing and the sale and the interstate trafficking of guns. We can no longer sit by and watch mothers and fathers and husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors crying at the loss of life. Right now, we've got to draw attention to this problem by doing something that may seem a little strict, but it has to be done, or else these killings will, as we have seen, continue.
I'm Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark. Anytime we have a horrific incident like a mass shooting, these things have a tendency to become politicized. One of the things that I would do to reduce, we're not going to be able to eliminate these entirely, but to reduce the likelihood that there's mass carnage, is to get rid of these gun-free zones. These gun-free zones, theaters, churches, college campuses, elementary schools, are chosen by the perpetrator for a reason. He knows that nobody is going to be able to interrupt him until mass carnage occurs. And we ought to give people the individual freedom, the individual right to, under certain circumstances, like a concealed carry license, to go armed in these venues in case something like this happens for their own protection and to have a chance. Look at Chicago, Illinois. Look at Washington, D.C., the federal district. If gun control really worked, those would be two of the safest areas in the United States. In fact, they're two of the most violent.
I'm Dr. Kelly Posner, the founder of a suicide center at Columbia University. 90% of school shooters have well-documented suicidal issues. 30% of shooters actually say that suicide is their motive. So if we screen, meaning ask a few questions, we may be able to find people and get the help they need before things like this happen. The questions about suicidal thoughts are quite simple. You start with, have you wished you were dead or wished you could go to sleep and not wake up? Or have you actually had thoughts of killing yourself? If that's no, you move on. However, if that's yes, then it's tiered. So we can, in a very feasible way, figure out who's really at risk and who really needs help. Imagine that an employee of a gun store, or when somebody goes to get a gun license, all of these places, they could be trained to ask these questions. And maybe somebody who's suffering in silence will be identified before it's too late.